Imagine watching your dream of retiring at 40 melt away because of a tiny slip of €100 each month. What if I told you that that modest shortfall could add 2 whole years to the day you finally say goodbye to the 9-to-5 grind? And on the flip side, what if keeping that €100 in your pocket could shave years off the wait? In the next few minutes, we'll walk through a quick calculation that shows exactly how that small change ripples through every year of your financial independence plan. First, let's set the stage with a concrete example. Picture a 30-year-old living in Spain, paying €30,000 a year in living expenses. The classic rule of 25 tells us that to retire early, you need to accumulate 25 times your annual expenses, which, in this case, works out to €750,000. That's the target nest egg we'll be aiming for. Now, let's look at the current financial picture. Our friend earns €45,000 a year in salary and manages to save 30% of that income. 30% of €45,000 comes out to €13,500 saved each year. Those savings are then invested with an assumed return of 5% per year, compounded annually. Using a simple future value calculation, we can see how long it will take for those contributions and the compound growth to reach the €750,000 goal. If we plug the numbers into the formula, the result is roughly 22 years of saving and investing. That means, starting at 30, our hypothetical saver would hit the target at 52 years old. On a graph, you'd see a steadily rising line of accumulated wealth climbing toward the target line, and the point where they intersect marks the retirement age. Now, let's introduce the twist. A reduction of €100 each month. That translates to €1,200 less saved each year. Subtracting that from the original €13,500 brings the annual contribution down to €12,300. All else stays the same: the salary, the expense level, the 5% return. Running the same future value calculation with the lower contribution shows a new timeline of about 24 years to reach the €750,000 goal. In other words, the retirement age slides from 52 to 54. On screen, you'd see the two lines diverge, the lower contribution line lagging behind the original, and the gap widening as the years go by. That 2-year delay might not sound dramatic at first, but think about the compounding effect over a lifetime. Those extra 2 years of work mean 2 more years of taxes, 2 more years of commuting, 2 more years of missing out on the freedom you were hoping to enjoy. If this surprise shift caught your attention, I'd love to hear what you think. Drop a comment below and tell me if you've ever noticed a small expense silently pushing your fire date back. Your stories help everyone see the hidden levers in their own plans. So why does a seemingly tiny amount like €100 per month have such a big impact? The answer lies in the power of compound interest, often described as a snowball rolling down a hill. The first €100 you save today doesn't just sit idle. It earns 5% interest each year, which then earns interest on top of that, and so on. Over 22 years, that single €100 contribution grows into a sizable chunk of the final nest egg. When you remove that contribution, you're not just losing €100 a month. You're not just losing the entire future growth that those euros would have generated. The effect compounds year after year, creating a widening gap that becomes more pronounced the longer you stay on the path. Let's break it down with a mental picture. Imagine a small seed planted at the beginning of a garden. In the first season, it sprouts into a tiny sprig. By the second season, it's a modest shoot. And by the 5th season, it's a sturdy stem. By the 20th season, it's a towering tree. That seed is your €100 saved each month. If you never plant it, the garden stays empty. If you plant it and nurture it with consistent returns, the garden flourishes, and the shade it provides in retirement is far more generous. Now, what can you do to protect your fire timeline from these hidden drags? First, track every recurring expense, no matter how small, and ask yourself if it truly adds value. Second, consider automating the €100 you want to keep investing each month, so it never gets accidentally spent. Third, periodically run a quick spreadsheet check, just like the one we walked through, to see how any change in savings rate shifts your projected retirement age. Small adjustments now can keep your timeline on track and prevent surprise delays later. If this insight is opening your eyes to the subtle forces shaping your financial future, consider subscribing so you don't miss the deeper dives we have coming up. Together, we'll explore more ways to fine-tune your path to early retirement, turning tiny levers into powerful outcomes. Now that you see the power of a single €100 each month, let's dig deeper into the practical steps you can take to safeguard that tiny lever. And even when life throws curveballs, your FIRE timeline stays on track. Imagine you're navigating a ship across a vast ocean. The wind may shift, the currents may change, but if you keep a steady hand on the wheel and make small course corrections, you'll still reach the same harbor. The same principle applies to your financial journey. First, let's talk about the habit of pay it forward budgeting. This isn't about splurging on a fancy dinner and then hoping the rest of the month will magically balance out. It's about deliberately allocating the first €100 of every paycheck to your investment bucket before any discretionary spending even has a chance to appear. By treating that amount as a non-negotiable line item, you create a psychological barrier that protects it from accidental erosion. Many successful FIRE adherents swear by the pay-it-forward method because it flips the script. Instead of asking yourself what you can afford after you've spent, you ask yourself what you can invest before you spend. Second, let's explore the concept of expense audits on a quarterly basis. Set a calendar reminder for the first week of each quarter and pull up your bank statements, credit card bills, and any subscription services you've signed up for. Scan each recurring charge and ask yourself 3 simple questions. Do I use this service regularly? Does it add measurable value to my life? Could I replace it with a cheaper alternative? If the answer to any of those is no, cancel it. Even a small subscription that costs €20 a month adds up to €240 a year, which, when compounded at 5% over 22 years, could be the difference between retiring at 52 or 54. The key is consistency. A quarterly audit keeps the habit fresh and prevents small leaks from turning into big holes. Third, let's consider the role of automatic escalation in your savings plan. Many employers offer the option to increase your contribution rate automatically each year, often tied to a raise or a set percentage. If you receive a raise of 3%, you could set your contribution to increase by 2%, leaving the extra 1% as a buffer for higher living costs or unexpected expenses. This way, your savings rate grows in tandem with your income, preserving the proportion of your earnings that goes toward investment. The beauty of automation is that it removes the need for active decision-making each month, reducing the temptation to divert funds elsewhere. Now, let's address a common fear that many aspiring early retirees voice. What if the market crashes and my investments lose value? The answer lies in understanding the difference between market risk and sequence of returns risk. Market risk is the overall volatility of the market. It's inevitable. Sequence of returns risk, however, is the danger of experiencing a series of negative returns early in your retirement, which can deplete your portfolio faster than you anticipate. One way to mitigate this risk is to build a buffer of cash or short-term bonds that covers your first few years of expenses. By keeping, say, €100,000 in a high-yield savings account or short-term bond fund, you can avoid withdrawing from your equity investments during a market downturn, allowing those assets time to recover. Another protective measure is diversification across asset classes, geographies, and currencies. While a simple portfolio of low-cost index funds can capture broad market growth, adding a modest allocation to real estate, commodities, or emerging market equities can smooth out returns over time. The goal isn't to chase high-risk, high-return opportunities, but to spread risk so that a single sector's slump doesn't dramatically affect your overall trajectory. Remember, the compound interest engine works best when the underlying growth is steady and uninterrupted. Let's also talk about inflation, the silent eroder of purchasing power. If you're planning to retire in a country where inflation averages 2% per year, the cost of living in 22 years will be significantly higher than today. To counteract this, you can allocate a portion of your portfolio to assets that historically outpace inflation, such as equities, real estate, or inflation-linked bonds. By ensuring that at least a part of your growth is above the inflation rate, you preserve the real value of your nest egg. In practice, this means that the 5% return you're using in your calculations should be a real return after accounting for inflation, not just a nominal figure. Now, let's walk through a quick mental experiment that illustrates how a small change in your savings rate can ripple across decades. Picture a line of dominoes set up on a table. The first domino represents your first €100 saved this month. The second domino is the interest that accrues on that €100 over the first year. The third domino is the interest on the interest, and so on. When you remove that first domino, the entire chain loses momentum. Conversely, when you add an extra domino at the start, the chain moves faster, and each subsequent domino falls with a little more force. This visual metaphor captures the essence of compounding. The earlier and larger the initial input, the greater the cumulative effect. If you're still skeptical, try a simple spreadsheet experiment at home. Open a new sheet and label column A as year, column B as starting balance, column C as contribution, column D as growth, and column E as ending balance. In the first row, set the year to 0, the starting balance to 0, and the contribution to €12,000. That's the annual amount you'd save if you keep the full €100 each month. In the growth column, apply a 5% formula to the sum of the starting balance and contribution. Copy the row down for 30 years. Then, create a second scenario where the contribution is reduced by €1,200. That reflects the loss of the €100 each month. Watch how the ending balance diverges over time. You'll see a widening gap that mirrors the 2-year retirement delay we discussed earlier. This hands-on exercise reinforces the abstract math with a concrete visual you can manipulate yourself. Now, let's address a scenario many people overlook: the impact of tax-advantaged accounts. In many European countries, you have access to retirement savings plans that offer tax deferral or tax-free growth up to a certain limit. By funneling your €100 per month contribution into such an account, you not only benefit from compounding but also from the tax shield, which effectively boosts your after-tax return. For example, if the tax rate on investment gains is 20%, the 5% nominal return becomes a 4% after-tax return. However, because the growth occurs tax-free inside the account, the effective annual boost can be closer to 5.2% when you consider the tax you'd otherwise pay on the gains. Over 22 years, that small boost can shave months off your retirement horizon. So, always check the contribution limits and eligibility criteria for any tax-advantaged vehicle available in your jurisdiction, and prioritize directing your extra €100 there first. Let's also discuss the psychological side of staying on track. Human behavior tends to drift toward the status quo, especially when faced with fatigue or decision fatigue. One technique to counteract this drift is to set up commitment contracts with yourself or a trusted friend. You could agree that if you miss a month's contribution, you'll donate an equivalent amount to a cause you care about, or you'll have to perform a small but embarrassing public act, like posting a video of yourself doing a goofy dance. The embarrassment or loss aversion can be a powerful motivator to keep the habit alive. Some online platforms even allow you to lock away funds that are released only if you meet certain savings milestones, adding an extra layer of accountability. Now, let's pivot to the idea of income diversification. Relying solely on a single salary can make you vulnerable to job loss, salary cuts, or unexpected career changes. By building side hustles, freelance work, or passive income streams, you create additional cash flow that can be earmarked for your FIRE savings. Even a modest side income of €300 per month, if directed entirely toward your investment bucket, can offset the loss of €100 from your primary budget, effectively neutralizing the setback. Moreover, the extra income can serve as a buffer during lean periods, reducing the temptation to dip into your retirement accounts early. If you're wondering how to choose the right side hustle, start by evaluating your existing skills and passions. Do you enjoy writing, graphic design, coding, teaching, or perhaps crafting? Platforms that connect freelancers with clients worldwide. And many of these opportunities can be pursued on evenings or weekends without disrupting your main job. The key is to treat the earnings as a dedicated savings stream rather than additional disposable income. Automate the transfer of those earnings into your investment account as soon as they land in your bank, reinforcing the habit of saving first and spending later. Let's also consider the role of health and insurance in preserving your FIRE timeline. Unexpected medical expenses can quickly erode your savings if you're not adequately covered. Review your health insurance plan annually, ensuring that you have sufficient coverage for both routine care and potential emergencies. In some cases, a slightly higher premium can save you thousands in out-of-pocket costs down the line, which you can then redirect back into your retirement fund. Similarly, consider disability insurance that protects your earning capacity. Losing the ability to work without a safety net can force you to withdraw from your investments early, compromising the compounding effect we've emphasized throughout this video. Now, let's talk about the importance of revisiting your FIRE target periodically. Life circumstances change. You might get married, have children, move to a different city, or experience a change in your risk tolerance. Each of these events can shift your required retirement nest egg. By conducting an annual FIRE health check, you can adjust your savings rate, investment allocation, or target amount accordingly. This proactive approach prevents you from being caught off guard by a sudden shortfall and allows you to make incremental changes rather than drastic overhauls. A practical way to perform this health check is to use a simple calculator that asks for your current age, desired retirement age, annual expenses in retirement, expected inflation, and expected investment return. Plug in the numbers, and the tool will output the required nest egg and the annual savings needed to reach it. If the required savings exceed what you're comfortable with, you can explore options such as extending your retirement age by a few years, reducing your target expenses, or seeking higher return investment strategies, always keeping in mind your risk tolerance and time horizon. Now, let's address a subtle but powerful lever, the timing of your contributions within the year. Some people make a lump sum contribution at the beginning of the year, while others spread it evenly across 12 months. From a compounding perspective, the earlier you get the money into the market, the more time it has to grow. If you receive a bonus or a tax refund, consider allocating a portion of it to your investment account immediately, rather than waiting for the next paycheck. This front-loading strategy can add a few extra months of growth each year, which accumulates over decades. Let's also explore the concept of rebalancing your portfolio. Over time, as some assets outperform others, the original allocation you set may drift, exposing you to unintended risk levels. By rebalancing annually, selling a portion of the overweighted assets and buying the underweighted ones, you maintain your desired risk profile and can potentially enhance returns by buying low and selling high. Many brokerage platforms offer automatic rebalancing features, making it a low-effort way to keep your portfolio aligned with your FIRE goals. Now, let's bring all these ideas together in a cohesive action plan you can start implementing today. First, set up an automatic transfer of €100 each month to your chosen investment account, preferably a tax-advantaged one if available. Second, schedule a quarterly expense audit and cancel any non-essential subscriptions. Third, enroll in an automatic contribution escalation tied to any salary increase you receive. Fourth, create a short-term cash buffer of at least €100,000 in a high-yield savings account to protect against early retirement market downturns. Fifth, diversify your portfolio across equities, real estate, and inflation-linked assets, and set a reminder to rebalance annually. Sixth, explore a side hustle that aligns with your skills and commit any earnings directly to your investment bucket. Seventh, review your health and disability insurance coverage to safeguard against unexpected expenses. Eighth, perform an annual FIRE health check to adjust your target and savings rate as life evolves. Ninth, consider front-loading any windfalls you receive to maximize compounding. And finally, stay engaged with the community. Share your progress, ask questions, and celebrate milestones together. By following these steps, you transform that modest €100 lever into a robust engine that propels you toward early financial independence. Remember, the magic lies not in any single action, but in the consistent, compounded effect of many small, deliberate choices.